See, now you're not obeying. Before that it was fine. Now nobody's taking it. Okay, time up. Stop working. Is that loud enough? Sorry. If you got your sheet, give it. Otherwise, please stop talking. Stop. No, time is up. They can't give it. Time is finished. I'm going to blow a whistle. You don't like this. Please stop talking. You bring me the sheet. Okay, everybody, you need to stop working, stop talking. Please be quiet. Please stop working. No more sheets to be given in. Don't accept any more sheets, please. Don't accept any more sheets for the volunteers. No more sheets. Please be quiet. Exercise is finished. Please stop talking. Hello, guys. Hello. Back to real world. I'm up here. Hello. Thank you. Very good. Finally. Can you stop working? Still people talking and working. Please stop. Give in the sheet. Give me the sheets here. No, it's too late. Don't accept any more sheets later. Okay, in a few minutes we'll tell you that's it. We'll just see if any of them are right, and if they're correct, they can stay where they are. All right, thank you. Can you please all stop the exercise and pay attention this side? Can you all look this way? Stop doing the exercise. Okay, some of you are still working on the questions. Okay, the questions are just a game. Put the game away. Pay attention this side. I got all you looking this way. Still, some people are still engrossed in the exercise. Okay, that was interesting. Right. So, as an observer, observing your soft skills, which is the reason we're doing this. Okay, it's not just to do some brain teaser and see how brilliant you are. It's about observing your soft skills. So the soft skills that were needed to complete this exercise successfully as a project, right? Within the deliverable, the time and the resources that you were given. So only one team, as far as I'm concerned, managed to deliver within the time available, which was the team who handed the sheet in first. Have they got 3 right answers? What is your team number? 2. 2 got 3 right answers, Artie, they'll tell you in a moment. As far as I'm concerned, all of you, the rest of you, did not succeed. Okay, because you did not hand over the sheet and by the time up. You took more time. You carried on working, even though the time was up. Your focus was lost because you got so interested in the task, you forgot questions, right? Okay, what else did you do that made it work? Divided it up. You do 4 and 5, you do 1 and 2, and get there much more quickly. Use your resources effectively. Absolutely. Well done. Okay, let's ask the team that... have we got 3 answers, correct? Don't know yet. Not sure yet. Still working it out. Okay? All right. I'll show you some of the behaviors that didn't work. Those of you who did not manage to achieve in time, what were you doing? Getting allotted project management. In what way?
So nobody acted as a project manager. Everyone was working individually.
Okay, we didn't have anybody organizing ourselves. 15 is a big group. 15 is a lot of people. Frankly, it's more than you need for this exercise. You could actually do it much more effectively with about 6. Okay, you had too many people. So if you're trying to involve everybody in 3 minutes, you won't have succeeded. Absolutely not. Too many people. Okay, you needed to just put some people to rest and decide who that was or something. Organizing your team was very important. Some of you didn't even get into a circle. Okay, so we had 2 members of this group actually sitting outside of the main group. I don't think these guys even knew they were there. You know, so how you use your people effectively is going to be very important. Recognizing that there's a deadline, and when you get to the deadline, that's it. You don't get extra time. The time is set. You have to complete within the time. That's project success. If you don't deliver within the time, it's not successful. Did we get 3 correct answers for group 2? No.
We gave it the time.
What does this mean? Oh, okay. Okay, so group 2, group 4, and group 1 have both all got 2 correct answers. Stand up, those groups. 2, 4, and 1. Only got 2 correct answers. All right. My goodness. So give a little applause. Okay, right. Let's sit down. Okay, sit down. Thank you. So actually, out of what? 150 people here. 150 people here. Nobody's been able to deliver me my outcome plan. Nobody's been able to deliver within the time, within the cost, and within the resources. Okay, let me ask you, out of 150 people here, shouldn't it be possible to do that? Shouldn't it be possible to do that exercise within 3 minutes? Should it be possible? With the brains and the abilities and experience and all of it that you have here. So why didn't it happen? You have the intelligence, you have the resources, okay, you have the paper and pencil, you have the information. Why didn't that work? What was it that stopped that from being a success as opposed to a failure? That's the bit that we need to concentrate on. That's the soft skills bit. It's not about knowledge, it's not about technical domain, it's not about how many years you've been in business. It's about how you worked together, how you organized yourselves, what questions you asked, how quickly you were able to form an effective working group. Okay, so all of you lose 3 members. So now you have to make a decision and send 3 people into the center there. Okay, you have 1 minute. 1 minute, this is the hard part, 1 minute. Send 3 of your people to the middle. You can always volunteer, of course. Well done, excellent, 3 from each group. Thank you, very, very good. All right, so that's an exercise, the brain teaser exercise. First exercise we're going to give you this afternoon, working in a large group of 15. So we came across some problems. The size of the group was 1. Okay, but there were some other things that made it not work. So how effective was this, would you say? I would say out of 10, 3. You know, I think we could have all been much more effective. And there are other groups, other companies, other organizations that would be more effective, and those are your competitors. So it's a race about who can be effective given the same time, cost, resources, and deliverables required. So would you all have exceeded if I'd given you more time? If I'd given you more time, if I'd said, okay, you need another 2 minutes, oh, okay, I'll give you another 2 minutes. Let's extend the timeline. Okay, would it have been better? Maybe, I don't know. Some of you may have given in sheets more, but I don't know that you would have got the answers more correct, so that correctness might not have come there. What if we'd given you more people? No, I think you have too many people. More guidance, maybe if we'd helped you a little bit more, helped you with some of the answers, maybe you'd have been more successful. So what is this equivalent to, this exercise? What are we doing here? Doing exactly what you do in project management. You have a deliverable, you have some time, you have some resources. Resources may be appropriate, they may not be appropriate. You have to decide that and use them effectively to get the deliverable out within the cost and the time available. Okay? This is exactly what you try to do in this exercise. And I'm sure you do it much better when you're in your jobs than you did here today. Okay, so who won? Well, nobody really. We didn't get anybody completely correct. And we got some suggestions from them by splitting up the tasks. That definitely helped them work quickly. So there are some specific things that successful teams do that make them succeed where others fail. And we're going to work on a little bit more in the workshop this afternoon to identify those things. I hope I have your attention on this point now, right? Just to step back a little. So I want to talk a little more about why this is a problem, why we're all struggling with this soft skill side of things. Why is it? Why is that the case? So how many of you have been in a project? I'll just move this timeline, sorry. Which was completed within time. Yeah. To the specified requirements and within the specified cost. How many have actually been in a project that's completed within deliverable time and cost? Let's see your hands. So just keep your hands up. That's a very interesting look at that. How many people have been in a project that has actually delivered on time, within cost, and to the performance required? Isn't that interesting? Not very many. Quite scary. Quite scary. And in fact, that's what a lot of the data says. How many of you have been involved in projects that did not get completed within time to the specified requirements and within the specified costs? Certainly. Okay. Common experience. All right. So don't worry, you're in very good company, as you can see. This is a very common problem. It's not a unique problem. It's not your fault, all right? This is a very common problem. So how many generally out there, how many projects are completed within time to the specified requirements, to the specified costs? Are we all unique in this room? No, I don't think so. And you can see that my clicker's not working. Something has happened to it. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of research. There's plenty of it. This is a report by IAG Consulting on the impact of business requirements on the success of technology problems. This is specifically looking at the way that business requirement definition affects project success. So it's right at the which stage, beginning or end of the project? At the beginning stage. We're talking about what happens at the beginning of a project with a business requirement. So that point you had just now where you were saying, you know, we've got different questions. That is that bit where you've got to figure out the information and what actually is required for us to do. So you can see from this piece of research, staggeringly awful figures. And they're saying that companies with poor analysis capability, this is correlated with poor requirement definition. These, you know, 50% of the particular group here were runaways, which had any of two, taking over 180% of the target time to deliver. I mean, horrendously way out figures in terms of achieving targets within time. The level of competency required is higher than that employed when projects for 77 companies. So what they're actually saying here is that competency in the area of business requirement definition, this is the area we're talking about here, the competency in this area significantly affects the ability of a project to succeed. Here's a little more information, and the key point here is in the little balloon that's come up there. Effective scoping, you all know scoping, right? Combined with strong business requirements discovery skills yielded a successful project in 80% of circumstances. So business requirements discovery is a technical sounding term. What did we start off talking about that we need to do right at the beginning? Ask questions. This means asking questions. Business requirements discovery means asking questions. A lot of what you need to do when you're looking at the soft skills that relate to hard skills is translate the words. The words are business requirement discovery. What it means is ask questions. So that's where we correlate soft skill with hard skill. I'm sure you really do that probably, but if you focus on that more, that it's the soft skill is simply asking questions. If you can do that more, that will significantly affect the success of your project by doing better scoping at the beginning to define the business requirement. The findings suggest that competency in business requirements discovery, called elicitation, drives scope control. So we all know about scope creep, scope control, right? It's what we're talking about, where the scope becomes fuzzy at the corners and nobody really knows what the time deadlines are anymore or what the costs or what the deliverables are. So if we can define it more clearly at the beginning through business discovery, better business discovery, that is going to affect the impact of the project success at the end. Business discovery requirements simply means using questions effectively. All it is.
Yeah. If you are asking the questions to customer for generating or gathering data, sometimes even without asking, suppose if you ask 100 questions, then the customer will keep on giving you the requirement. Though sometimes you are not asking, he will say do this, do that. So
right.
How you can stop him?
Yeah, it's not, you will get information and then you may get too much information. The information may change. So it doesn't solve all the problems.
In my scope, right?
Yeah.
That will impact.
Yeah. So it's also about contracting to make sure that you close down on that scope before you start the work. That's another part of the process. This is specifically just about being able to elicit through good questioning. Maybe if our questioning is better, we won't come back with 2 or 3 different versions if our questioning is better to start with. This is the evidence it's showing here. It's not going to solve all the problems, I'm not suggesting that. Controlling the scope of a project, exactly as you say. Controlling the scope of a project is a unique competency, but it is also heavily entwined with elicitation skills. What it's simply saying is that elicitation, to elicit information, the correct, precise information through correct questioning, that is a soft skill. That soft skill will directly impact business requirement discovery, and that will impact project success. That's what this little piece of research is saying. Some more figures. I'm sure you're all familiar. 70% of respondents agree that scope creep leads to project cost overruns. So this is all, I'm sure, something you're coping with all the time. But it's a horribly staggering negative impact on the success of projects. There's a KPMG report actually on the PMI website and sponsored along with the PMI KPMG. It's a very interesting report. Do read it. This is mostly in the infrastructure sector. This is talking about project management within infrastructure sector in India. And the research was done specifically by KPMG for PMI. So here they're talking about factors affecting the project timelines. Appear to be associated mostly with external factors. Okay, we all know what external factors are. They're the things we always blame for why it's gone wrong. The other people, the other things, all those things that we don't have control over. So whilst it appears to be those external factors, the underlying reason behind them remains the delayed or non-identification of prerequisites to overcome these factors. In other words, the fact that we're not clearly identifying the underlying factors. We're just blaming the external. In the absence of adequate identification, the projects usually land in trouble at the start itself. So again, it's all about the elicitation of correct information at the business discovery level. Okay. There are some wonderful graphs in this report that show you how what factors particularly affect the delay of projects or incomplete projects. Ineffective resource utilization. What is ineffective resource utilization? Exactly what you saw in that exercise. Lots of resources, no organizing about how they're to be used, whether we have too much, too many, and who's using what, who's doing what. Ineffective planning. I'm sure this is all familiar to you, but these graphs actually give the data that back it up. Scope creep, inadequate DPR, detailed project requirements, original estimate, and budgeting. So again, right at the beginning. The project manager increases the chance of getting unqualified success by over 400% by using elite analysts with specific competencies at the start of requirements discovery. So what they're actually saying in this report is just no good asking any questions. You've got to have elite analysts who know what questions to ask, so that you're not coming back over and over again with more questions and more answers. So the quality of your analysts at the business requirement discovery level will have a significant impact on the project success. This is what this report is saying. So those of you who haven't focused on this in your organizations till now, it might be something you want to go back and say, what's the quality of the people who are asking the questions? That's where we need to make sure we have the best we possibly can. It will impact what happens afterwards. So there is a huge capability gap because these people are generally either not asked for or not available. There's a lot of data on that also. And what we're going to show you is a little more, as we've been trying to do, on the criticality of developing effective soft skills for hard skill application in this workshop. Are you beginning to get a picture? Would somebody like to give me a little feedback here of where we're up to in terms of the correlation between soft skills and hard skills and project success? Yes, thank you. Good volunteer. Stand up, please, sir.
So though the term, the project management is waiting, but actually to make it happen, you need the skills, which is like effective communication. So eliciting responses, asking the questions in different forms, just like in a psychometric test.
Right.
So I think that's what you're trying to do, that you can be very effective as a project manager if you also stress upon your soft skill, which is asking questions in different ways. So you actually get to know what exactly the customer needs.
Very good, thank you. So in fact, though project management seems very weighty and complex, what he's saying is, comes down to a few very simple soft skills, which will make a huge difference to your project success. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. I have an exercise for you. You can stay in your groups and your project teams. And what I want you to do is look at the slide, and I put up hard skills, soft skills, okay? Now, underneath here are some suggestions. What I'd like you to do is look at the hard skills list, okay? So these are some of the terms that are used in project management. I don't know if these are familiar to you, not familiar. Some of them maybe you're in a different domain where it's not this kind of language. What I'd like you to do is look at this list, get some ideas from here. Identify those hard skills that are important in your domain. That's what I want you to do first. After that, I'm going to give you a list of soft skills and ask you to correlate them. Okay, so the correlation will come afterwards. First, I need to rack your brains, get you to think from your domain. Some of these may be hard skills that are relevant to your domain. They may not be. Make a list, several lists. It's fine. You can break up, you can work in several groups, it's fine. Get a good long list of the relevant hard skills for the domains that exist within your project group in your 50s. Okay, clear?
So we have to come with one list only per group, or
You can make several lists, it's fine. This is not a timed exercise, not a competition. Just, I want to get your ideas into the circle here, not just what I have on here. There's many, it's probably about 100 possible answers to this question. So just get as much wisdom as you can out from your group on what are the hard skills that exist in your business. Okay, start, please. They may be same, they may be different, doesn't matter. Brainstorm with your group. Yeah, just brainstorm as many ideas as you can. What is the hard skills? So we are different
What happened?
We have 1 minute left. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1. Okay, stop talking, please. Thank you. Just stop this exercise now. Thank you. Thank you. Just stop now. Please just pause here. Thank you. Okay, it took a little while, but I think you're getting there. I think you took a little minute to understand what I'm looking for, but I think now the discussion is coming out. All right, I want you to now, from what you have, now start correlating the soft skills. Okay, so here are some soft skills. You can see them there. These may correlate with what's on the left side, they may not. That's not the point. What I want you to do is see this list of soft skills and correlate these with those hard skills, those domain-specific technical skills that you've just listed out. See if you can make a table of your own where you've listed your hard skills on the left side. And here's some soft skills, some suggestions. There may be other soft skills also. This may be the ones you want to focus on. Try to correlate. Do you understand correlate? Yeah? Yep. You can do 1 to 1, you can do 1 to 4, you can do it any way you like. What I want you to think about is how do the soft skills correlate with those specific hard skills which you have listed. This is tough. Okay, this is going into a domain that is not your expertise. Even maybe if you're HR, you still find this hard, tough. So assuming you're not HR, that is not your domain, see if you can do it. Okay. Work. Go ahead.
Who has the question? Somebody has to be the leader. So we can put it across
So I'd like to commend the group at the back here who have been working very effectively as a team. What I see is, one, they're sitting in a way which they can all see each other and they can all hear each other. There is somebody who is taking notes here, and he's sitting a little back from the rest of the group who are actually discussing. But he's making notes and controlling and allowing free discussion between the group. They're all participating. None is sitting out and letting the others do the work. So here's some observed behaviors of choices that are being made about this group of people as a project team. So well done, you. Well done. Okay, the task that I've set you here is very tough. Even the best HR people in the country can't do this. All right? You're not going to get it done in 2 minutes. I want you to understand that it is tough, it is difficult, but it's also very important. We're not going to spend the whole afternoon defining soft skills, but I want you to see at least how they do correlate. And we're going to move on to a little more of an exercise. So this is about, understanding that you might call it data exchange. I may call it collaboration, but it's actually the same thing. So when we had that question earlier, what is hard skill, what is soft skill, does it really matter? It doesn't, because they're totally entwined. And often we're actually talking about the same thing. So it's very important for some of you to recognize this, that you don't have to be a soft skills specialist to talk about soft skills. These things are entwined in your domain-specific knowledge. This is what I wanted you to understand. It's not something separate. So what I was thinking when I was preparing this workshop, I was thinking, why is that? Why do we, or perhaps you, us, mainly in India especially, have this thing about soft skills being separate from hard skills? And I thought about the education system. And of course at university, what is it that you learn? And if you're in software, you learn this. Okay? That's the stuff you learn. It's actually curriculum. So, no wonder where do soft skills come in? It's nothing to do with it, is it? Suddenly it's something separate that we didn't do. Or it's really makes the situation very difficult. If you look, I have a couple of sample of a course at a workshop on learning Scrum and Agile. It's all technical domain related language. There's nothing in there that talks about utilizing or correlating soft skills for effective project success. Even as a course also doesn't include this. Engineers don't generally get motivated by learning soft skills. Okay, how many of you are engineers? Lots of you. Wonderful. So big congrats to even sit here in this workshop. I mean, amazing. You must be so uncomfortable. I really appreciate it. But please, if you do nothing else, go away from here and with that mindset. Soft skills is not separate from hard skills. It's something that's entwined in our technical domain expertise. It's not separate, okay? So how many of you said to yourselves while you were at university, gosh, I need to make sure I can manage people because when I'm a project manager, that's what I'm going to have to do. No.
Consumption, like who said engineers are not managers?
I didn't say
We
that.
have to manage a lot of people, so naturally we have the skills.
You need to, yes. But what I'm trying to show is that when you're doing your education, are these the top of your mind questions? I need to make sure I can manage myself because when I'm a project manager, that's what I will have to do. Is this something you learn at university? Is this a top of your mind question when you're doing your degree? I don't think it is. I used to, I need to be able to manage people's time, because when I'm a project manager, that's what I will have to do. Is this the top of your mind question when you're learning as an engineer to be able to be in work? I don't think it is. I need to make sure I can write a flow process, because when I'm a project manager, that's what I will have to do. Process flows, simple defining of process flows, requirements definition, these things are not part of your curriculum when you're learning, and they're not top of your mind, and they need to be. But that's not your fault. That's the education system that's still evolving in India that's going to create that after some time. But be aware of it, that this separation of soft skills is not your fault. It's just a fact that that's how it is. Okay, I want you to summarize here. We're going to move on. This is what we've been talking about in session 1. Project success requires management of interdependent factors of cost, performance, and time. Quite simple. Soft skill sets are directly correlated with hard skills required for effective project success. Software engineers generally are not inclined towards soft skill sets. Soft skills are often buried within project management skill sets. Project management is yet to become part of the core curriculum of most education providers in India. Most project teams do not possess sufficiently well-developed soft skills to work in project teams. Many projects fail due to the poor soft skill sets, such as elicitation that we were talking earlier. These are some of the conclusions from what we've worked on so far. Okay, I hope you've all got those points. If you don't agree, please see me afterwards. I'm here. I'd very much like to hear your feedback. Let's move on. I'm not going to ask you if you have any questions at this point because I want to move straight through. Can we do that? Get on to some practical stuff? Hope so. Okay. We're going to introduce you to IPAs and IRAs. This was the second objective of the workshop. We're going to move into that area. Has anybody heard this expression IPA, IRA before? Okay, great. We're introducing something new. So what are the best project team you've worked in and what is the worst project team you've worked in? Okay, quick identification, please, of typical problems, typical success factors. I'll just give you 1 minute. Brainstorm. Work as an effective project team to get as many ideas out of the 15 people you're working with. Make a list of typical problems, typical success factors in project teams. You should be able to do this in your sleep. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go! No, incorrect. Scope.
Yeah.
Are you a team? Exercise is finished. Stop over here. One more.
Cultural difference when you are working across the globe.
Can you stop discussing, please? Hello? Need us help.
This is one of the bottlenecks in the study.
Relieving impediments. I think we need to remove these impediments. Can you stop the discussion, please? Sorry. Okay, I want 2 success factors from this group. Okay, 2 success factors from this group. Planning and defining goals. Planning and defining goals. 2 success factors from this group.
Effective communication.
Effective communication. Getting the scope properly elicited, discovery. Okay, 2 problems from this group.
Realistic planning.
Okay, so planning was a success factor. The problem is it's not realistic.
If you have that, then it's a success.
One more problem.
And another is lack of skills, knowledge, distributed teams and communication.
Okay, all right. All right, so you all got some ideas. I'm going to show you some more. So here's a little piece of work that is very interesting. It's American, unfortunately. I'd love to do the same. We're going to have a little go at taking it into India and seeing what your views are. This piece of work was done to see how does a bad apple affect the group. You all know the concept of a bad apple. If you put it with a group of apples, all the apples become bad. Okay, this is the idea that this comes from. So this guy, Will Phelps, did some research. And in this research, what he did was put a bad apple, a person with some negative behaviors, with a group of people, and observed what happened to the group's performance when the negative behaviors were displayed. And it was a very interesting piece of research. And he's identified 3 personality types, 3 kinds of behavior that seem to hurt group dynamics and group performance. And he calls them the jerk, the slacker, and the pessimist. Okay, now these are very American terminologies, so I apologize for that. What I'm going to ask you to do in a minute is define the Indian bad apples, okay? And there are some. So just hold it. Let me just show you what he's saying these 3 are. So the jerk is the guy, who basically put this guy in the group of very effective people, and this actor pretended to be a real jerk, so he did, he'd say things like, are you kidding me? And, have you actually done any business training? It's making these sort of really arrogant comments, quite abusive and insulting. He would state that other people's ideas are not adequate, but he didn't offer any alternatives. You guys really need to listen to the expert. I'm the one that knows here. So really making some very arrogant statements, calling him the jerk. And then there's the slacker, okay? So there's, the guy who would just, sit in his seat, put his feet up on the desk, bring out his lunch and start eating it, and just generally just be very relaxed and putting out his lunch and whatever, I don't really care. So this is another kind of person, is the slacker. And the last one is the pessimist. The guy who just, okay, the depressive pessimist, you know, what's the point? We're never going to get this done anyway. And so what actually happened is that, what actually he found is that when these the actor was there displaying one or more of these things, it impacted everybody else. So what he found, particularly with the pessimist, is that people who are normally, as you can see in the last paragraph, normally sit up straight, very energized, enthusiastic, you know, by the end of it, they're all sitting with their, you know, arms on the desk, oh, let's just go, you know. He just impacted the whole group, and people started taking on the behaviors of the jerk or the slacker or the pessimist. The whole group started to demonstrate the same behaviors. And of course, as you can imagine, this had a huge impact on the group's performance, 30 to 40% worse than other groups when the bad apple was put into the exercise. So it is very interesting, and not only did they do it in reaction to the bad apple, but they started doing it to each other as well. So the behavior just you know, seeped across to other people who started being insulting to each other, and mimicking the behavior of the guy that was there as the actor. So really very damaging on group performance. With one group, there was one, he observed, one exception where a very strong leader came in and actually changed the dynamics of the group. And he observed by all what he was doing was going around asking questions, soliciting people's opinions and making sure that everybody was heard. Can you see that? Asking questions, soliciting opinions and making sure everybody is heard. And then this one group, this negative impact did not happen. Because this guy, one member of the group, was doing this, and the bad apple didn't impact the rest of the group. And so what this guy, Will Phelps, is saying, isn't it amazing that you know, we could actually get to the point where nobody can ruin things for everybody else, simply by listening, asking questions, soliciting opinions, and making sure that everybody is heard. That's actually what it comes down to. He's actually saying that can cure everything. Wouldn't that be amazing? Maybe. Okay, so here's your chance. I want you to try and define what are the three most typical bad apples in Indian business culture. Okay, Indian business culture. Don't go beyond, out of that, within business culture. Okay, you're going to enjoy this. Off you go. Couple of minutes.
First one would be like not let the other person, you know, proceed by finding the
politician.
Let's see what you're going to say. Okay, let's hear what you're going to say. Yes, just read out. One. You can't. Guys, I'm not getting it because it's 50 words, right? Okay, quiet, please, guys. Did you translate that?
make it happen.
Okay, excellent. Can somebody please take a note of these words? Just take a note. Yeah, thank you. One more from another group. Yes. Can I have quiet from the rest? Thank you. Cynical. Mr. Cynical. Okay, thank you. This group here.
Individualistic.
Individualistic. I'm important, nothing else matters. Individual, Mr. Individual. Or Mrs. Individual, yes. Yes, this group. I am perfect. Mr. Perfect. Yeah, I'm perfect. Egoist. I am only worried about myself. Thank you. Pessimist. Okay, a pessimist. Common. Translate. Arrogant. Okay, so it's like the jerk. It's like the arrogant guy. Okay, very good. Just welcome to you. Yes, this group. Can you have quiet? Listen up, please. Just listen up. Backbiter. Okay. Yes, man. Very good. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. This group here. Listen up. Listen to what they have to say. Politician. Absolutely. This group here.
Vaska chamcha.
What is it? Mr. Yes Man, same thing. Okay, then this group.
Keeps talking.
Babbler, just talks without, we call it talking without effect, just talk. Without effect, talking without effect. Now, this group you've done, this group?
Criticizer. What will criticize others?
Criticizing others. Real criticizer.
Ma'am, the 3 terms you can give. One is DA. DA is a cribber, Dukhi Atma.
Shortcut, okay. Word shortcut.
Yeah, and then this backstabber or complaining type, use Shikayati tattoo.
Excellent. Your brief is done? Already done. Okay, excellent. So we got a nice list of names there. I'm going to add another one. Okay. I don't know whether anybody has said this, mentioned it, but there's the academic. The academic. Okay. In India, the academic is still revered, and sometimes that can create a bad apple in a group because of the perspective of the academic perspective. Okay, I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings here. Sorry, okay.
Can you elaborate on that?
All right, we're going to go on a little more. We're going to move on. So these problems, as you can see, everybody knows what these are. We all know these people. We all know what happens. And so why does it continue to be a problem? I'm not going to ask you this. I'm going to move on to the next question. So why don't we actually do things differently in India? Why is it that it's still a problem? And what is different? And is it any harder here than it is everywhere else? So somebody was asking me earlier, when are we going to talk about the constraints? This is it. This is about why, is this the same everywhere? Or is this different in India? Does everybody in America, Australia, Zambia, everywhere else have this same problem of this disconnect between soft and hard skills? Or is it just something specifically unique to this group of people, to you and your work in India? This is what I want you to think about now. And I'm giving you some information here, which you may find very controversial, you may disagree with, that's absolutely fine. Here's some of my perspective on this, between Indian and what I'm calling Western, and I have to absolutely say, by Western, it is a completely undefined word. It just means not Indian, but even that doesn't really mean anything. But I'm probably talking about mostly American and Western European when I say Western. So there are cultural issues that are there, which are different. The Indian culture mostly would be group and family driven, where the Western culture is mostly self and individual driven. These are what are defined as the good values in the culture. In the Indian culture, there is respect for seniority. In the Western culture, there is respect for merit and equality. These are the good values. These are the values that drive good society in the different aspects of the culture. You can see both are good. It's not one is good, one is bad. Both are good. They're just very different perspectives. In Indian culture, it is very compliant. It's compliant. You tend to say yes or say nothing. Okay? And in the West, we tend to say why, who, what, and so on. So we would tend to question. And this is the most important difference. I'm going to talk some more about it in a minute. There's also a relatively unregulated environment and culture in India than in the West. Okay. Did anybody violently disagree with what I've put up here?
Ma'am, I would like to say something.
Yes, please.
See, what was your Western culture, say 100 years back? You just take a gun, shoot and settle a claim.
You know what?
So you have evolved over the period of years.
I'm going to take the gun and just shoot myself right now.
No, you have not evolved. Like you have taken so many years to perfect, like make yourself perfect. You have evolved into a good society. We are still at the 20, 30 years back. It will take some more time for us to reach.
Let me reassure you, neither is perfect. Neither is perfect, neither Western or Indian. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying there are some differences in the value systems. And I think, I know it's controversial, and I have definitely shot myself in the head by even suggesting this. It's a very controversial topic. Okay, if I can take this forward a little more, I want to show you how the compliant and questioning difference.
I have an opinion. opinion.
Yes,
I
please.
think it's just that we are just not compliant. We just don't have a habit of saying no.
Sure.
If anything is put up to us, we'll say yes and do some jugaad and try to do it. And that's the biggest thing that we actually put ourselves in trouble.
Right. Sometimes there's a yes when you mean a no, or saying no is difficult.
We don't have a habit of
Sure.
saying, yeah, the culture of saying
Sure.
no is...
Culture of saying no is difficult, is not familiar to the Indian culture. Absolutely right,
They will say
yes.
that I'll try and do this.
I'll try, yes. It's a very compliant culture. It will always try and comply and do what is expected. That is the preference always.
Because we are driven by
Yes, because of the other factors, exactly. Okay, this is not a criticism. Please understand, I'm not criticizing either. Yes, I got you 1 minute, sir. Yes. Could you be quiet, please? Let us hear the opinion. Stand up.
Explain a little bit on unregulated. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, unregulated as opposed to disciplined, relatively unregulated. Just in terms of the legal, adherence to laws, restrictions, and rules. Adherence. I'm not saying the rules are not there, but the adherence is relatively unregulated. Was there no gentleman here had a question?
Yes. Another difference in culture is that in India, innovation is not appreciated.
Yes, that's correct.
Innovation gets appreciated in India if it is endorsed by the West.
Correct, yes, quite right, unfortunately so. There are a lot of results of these differences, and that is one of them for sure. Many more are there, and I appreciate it's a very simplistic description. I want you to focus on this compliant and questioning aspect, because here is where I feel is the core of one of the gaps or missing links in terms of the project management soft skill area that we were talking about. Now here first a little bit on human nature. So going back to that question about is it just human nature, or is it India, or is it both, or what is it? So this is just a picture that talks a little bit about the masks that we wear. Now this guy is white-skinned, unfortunately. I couldn't find a picture like this with an Indian in, but Indians also wear masks, and the masks are there because we have basic human nature, which makes us try to put on a face or hide who we are. So what I'm showing you here is an iceberg. Just very quickly, a little about behavior theory. And most of us are made up of a piece of physical something, some of which is visible above the surface. You know of an iceberg, you have that line there, this is the water level. So above the water level it's visible, below the water level it's not visible. So you can relate this to yourselves as a person, that some small part of you is above the surface, it's visible. What your people can see of you. And what is not visible is below the surface. And that is a lot of what is hidden away, and what we like to keep hidden away, which is a lot of our internal value systems, our beliefs, our emotions, and our preferences, all of these things we tend to like to keep inside, our experience, our prejudices, and our opinions. We tend to like to keep these inside, and we tend to mask what is going on, put on a mask, which is the behavior that we show people. And a lot of our real self we like to keep hidden inside us. And because we like to do that, it means that it's very difficult to understand what people are truly thinking and feeling. And it complicates human behavior management enormously. So when we get to this question about how do we get to the point where nobody can ruin things for everyone else, we feel that actually, if you go back to this is common to humans. How does this affect Indians particularly? There would be different beliefs, there would be different emotions, there would be different reasons and prejudices and opinions and experiences in the culture which would be causing those masks. So the constraints and the reasons will definitely be different. But the human nature of fear of rejection, of fear of humiliation, of wanting to be accepted, of needing to be included, these are basic human emotions which I think exist in every human, whether they're Indian, Western, or anything else. And these are what actually derive a lot of our behavior. When we get to IPAs and IRAs, we want to show you what this means now. So because we're humans and we like to do what's easy, we tend to take the easiest path. So going back to that picture of the iceberg, if something is easy, we tend to choose it. Remember, we started off with choice. We started off this afternoon with choice. We tend to choose what is easiest. That is what we are mostly like. The same as water will flow through the easiest path, so will we tend to do what is easiest. If you have read your Jim Collins, you'll know that one of his most useful insights into successful, good, great businesses is the discipline that is brought into those businesses. So can you see immediately a conflict with the slide I showed you where we have unregulated and regulated? In terms of the culture, relatively unregulated culture. And yet, Jim Collins is saying great companies have disciplined people with disciplined strategy, with disciplined execution, and disciplined businesses. This is the cycle that Jim Collins discovered. So here is a contradiction immediately. And when you're making a choice, which way do you go? Discipline, or do I just get away with what I can get away with? Discipline isn't about making people all do the same thing. It's required for creativity. If you don't show where the edge is, then you have chaos. So what we have is something called IRAs and IPAs. These define the rings around what is okay and not okay. This is bringing discipline into behavior management. This is saying this is okay, this is not okay. So IRA is an income reducing activity, and an IPA is an income producing activity. So like you were looking earlier at typical problems, typical success factors, the same. Typical problems would be income reducing activities, things that reduce the result, negate the result, cause failure. And income producing activities are things that cause success, they bring success. And an organization's culture can be defined in IRAs and IPAs. Obviously, these two interact. Okay, we have the income reducing activities bringing down the organization, and the income producing activities are going to bring it up. So if these two things are left to choice, and nobody is controlling them, then don't complain if your projects don't succeed. You'll see that there's a cumulative spiral. The green line is the degree of IPAs and their practice, and the red is the degree of IRAs. You will always have both. But the pull of each, the relative pull and the amount that they're kept in control, will determine the acceleration level of progress of your business. So what do they look like? Here's just a simple definition that we have done for a couple of organizations. This is something we did for ANZ. This is one behavior label called fosters innovation. Just was a very critical factor in this business. The IPA, the income producing activity, is the positive indicator. The IRA is the negative indicator. Can you see how simple this language is? It is very simple. It's very generic. If we want to foster innovation, we need to take initiative. The IRA is wait to be told what to do. Okay? So these two are directly contradictory. Somebody may be waiting to be told. That is an income reducing activity. It's going to drain cost and time and resource from your project.